Hi everyone, thank you so much for your wonderful likes and subscribes. And today I present you a beautiful coach, Sharon. Her amazing passion for igniting leadership potential and empowerment that comes with every sentence she says is just incredible. I hope you'll enjoy the video. We're talking about self-empowerment, self-care, and positive mindset. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome, Joanna. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's the second time we're meeting,
Yes,
Sharon, yes?
in much better circumstances. Last time was pandemic and it was online, I think we were speaking, whereas this is just so much more natural, and great to meet you in person as well.
Thank you so much. So tell us your journey and tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Okay, so I suppose the main journey, considering the reason that we're here talking about business today, etc. I would have worked in corporate for about 14 years. Prior to that, when I left college, I taught English as a foreign language. I went to Italy for a year, which is where I got my fancy surname, but I am actually 100% Irish. But I just have that luxury of having a lovely surname from Italy.
It's Rossignuolo, isn't it?
Rossignuolo, yeah.
Oh my
the G
God,
is silent, yeah. So after I came back, I just started working in retail, and from there worked my way up into head office, which became Vodafone. After that, then I worked in financial services and e-commerce and all of that. So it was a long 14 years. And I suppose, in that time you get married, you have children, your life stages change. So you're very different from when you're younger to when you start developing and you get more responsibilities, the house, the family, all that kind of thing.
Experience.
Exactly. And I suppose at a certain point I had started asking myself the question, am I making a difference here? And when that answer started to become no, that started to kind of clash with the values and become a little bit of an issue. Similarly, I started to notice the impact that the sacrifice of hard work and long hours, etc., the impact that was having on my family, on my health, and just my overall kind of well-being. Like, you get to the point, is this it? So I suppose for the final last time, I was like, okay, am I really making a difference here? The answer was no. But of course, the next question is, well, what else can I do?
Exactly.
Because obviously you can't just, well, that's it. I'm just going to go to the west of Ireland and buy a boat and go off fishing every day,
Wish we could do that.
So yeah, exactly. So that was when I made the decision to become self-employed, and it was very much around, okay, what do I know what to do? What are my strengths and how can I put them to good use to make a difference, which is essentially what my value is. So as long as whatever I'm doing, no matter what, no matter where, if I'm making a positive difference, then that's good for me. So that's basically it. So that's how I've ended up here.
Fantastic. That's very good. So many women aspire, they want to open their own business. And what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say, do what you love. And I know that's very obvious advice, but the truth is there can be very long days. It can be a very long haul. You will have good days, you will have bad days. And if you're doing something that you really love, then you can handle all that. But if you're doing something that you're not really mad about, then you are going to start become resentful very quickly, end up hating it, and essentially end up just giving up and not doing it. So that's probably my first piece of advice. And the second piece of advice, and I'm sure we're going to cover this later on, is to believe in yourself and your ability to do it. Because it's very easy, particularly, if you've worked for years and years in a situation where you've been reporting into other people or you've been doing what other people asked you to do, and you've been looking for solutions to problems for other people, etc., it becomes difficult when you're that other person and you have to report into you and you have to do it for you. It's not that you're not able to do it, but somehow it seems easier a lot of the time to do it for other people than it is for ourselves. And I think perhaps that comes back to a certain degree towards the history that women have, in terms of we've always been the carers, we've always been the ones to put others in front of ourselves. And, this generational change has happened very, very quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
For many of us, our mothers worked in the home. and worked very hard, but they didn't get paid for it. Essentially, there was
still like that in some cases.
Absolutely. So there is that mindset shift as well, but also to acknowledge ourselves that, it's not that you're way behind. It's just this has all happened very quickly, and maybe beliefs that you've had from growing up, just old beliefs die hard. So putting the work into believing in yourself and your ability to build that business and do that, that would be my...
So many stereotypes as well, and
we
kind of have to fight as women, and not only women, but everyone has to fight with them, and that's difficult, isn't it? Sometimes.
Exactly, and there's the importance as well of you building a business while still staying true to you and your beliefs and your values and what you're in. I have seen people who have kind of lost their way and just become other people and leaned way into a very hardcore energy in order to get things done, to a degree maybe, where they see people as being a means to an end, and maybe don't just lose themselves and lose the idea of like, well, why am I actually doing this? And that's not a great place to be, because eventually it catches up with you.
Okay, so that's my next question then. As a coach, what strategies or mindset shifts do you recommend for women in business to navigate the challenges of self-employment? How do you go through all of that?
Yes.
What would you recommend?
So I think the first thing is really to recognize that self-confidence is something that you have to work on all the time. It would be easy to believe if you do the inner work now and challenge yourself around, okay, so what are my values? What are my strengths? What am I good at? What's the perception of me out there? There's a lot of work that you can do around that. But the problem with it is the way life comes in and dilutes the work that we do. If you don't keep that work up all the time, you can lose it again. And you can end up, maybe you might make 5 steps forward and end up 10 steps back due to whatever circumstances, or perhaps whatever beliefs that you've had in the past or habits that you've had in the past that have resurfaced again. So that would be the first strategy, is to make sure that you build it into your business plan. Because a lot of business plans are very practical. They're about the finance, they're about the marketing, they're about, who are you serving? What problem are you solving? Have you registered with the CRO, with the revenue? What are your projections for next year? All that kind of thing. What about the mindset stuff? The actual...
Nobody asks about it.
Exactly. And it's the engine that's running the whole thing. It's the motivation. It's the one thing that's going to keep you going. So if you imagine, it's almost the rudder under the boat that's going to keep it flowing forward. And so that would be the first thing, to commit to continually working on yourself, your self-confidence. What drives you? What holds you back? The obstacles that get in your way? What's the consistent pattern with them? Because often there is a pattern, and often maybe there's a skill behind that maybe you haven't learned to build yet. Another big thing, I suppose, in terms of strategy is being able to ask for help.
Usually ask for help. Women usually don't ask for help.
Exactly. And then beat themselves up that why are they not succeeding and everyone is better than them. And then that's back to the self-confidence issue again. So you're back to square one. So, as they say, a problem shared, a problem halved. And also knowing that you're not on your own, that there are other people as well. So that would be the first piece, I would say, and it's hugely important. Like when I was running the Business Women's Network, that was the main theme that ran through all of the things. And it didn't actually matter what type of expert you brought in on what type of topic, it always came up because it's so vital. The second strategy I would talk around would be money mindset. A lot of women, they either believe that they can't charge too much because they don't want to pay, that they might fall out with their clients as a result of that. Or the other side could be that maybe they charge too much and haven't done the research behind the pricing, etc. Maybe don't provide the experience that the clients are willing to pay for, and then they crash themselves around their self-belief. Oh, I made a mess of this, nobody wants to buy from me, etc. So work on that money mindset, your own money mindset about, I deserve to be paid for this, then building on that, due to my experience, due to the way I do it, due to the experience that I provide to my clients. And then from there, continually working on that and working towards creating that experience. I think it's very easy sometimes, and women kind of shy away from working on that money mindset because they're afraid that
We think that money is like a reward rather than commodity, and it's all the time.
Exactly.
It's a lot of discussion in that subject as well. We could talk and talk.
100%. But essentially what I would say is that a successful business is one that's making money.
Absolutely.
And again, if you don't have the money mindset correct in your mind and working in a healthy way, then it's going to feed back into your self-confidence, because you look, why am I not making money? Is it because I'm not good enough? And there the self-confidence goes again. And I suppose that brings me to the last point then, or the strategy I'd like to share, is that you have a business, you are not the business. And the reason it's so important to separate the two is that sometimes when things don't go well with the business, and we know that sometimes they just don't.
Happens,
and sometimes it might be something you did, sometimes it might not be something you did. Like it's, clients can at the last minute bail out and say, no, actually, that's not within my budget anymore, or I don't want to move forward for this, that, the other reason. But if you believe that you are the business and you're tying up your self-worth and your self-esteem in with the business, then that sense of rejection is going to flow over on you, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not a successful businesswoman.
That happens a lot, especially if it's for somebody who's just a beginner and they on their own and they deal with everything, and that's what happens.
Exactly. So, it is, I suppose, to consider that confidence and that self-belief, that needs to be a titanium bubble that you're constantly making sure is solid, so that it doesn't get damaged, because you can always go again. You'll get a new client, you'll get a new contract. But if you're allowing, we'll say, past failures to get in on you, then that's going to impact your level of confidence when you go out to find new clients and new contracts. And I would say, people buy from people, people buy confidence, and confidence is the best sales toolkit you can possibly have.
So let's become more confident.
Exactly. It's the key.
Yes. But we also, as women, are not only, but it is mostly a woman, we have to take care of ourselves as well, the way we look. So how do you see the beauty and wellness industry importance for women in business? Do we use it correctly? What is the balance between self-care and positive mindset?
So obviously the beauty industry is absolutely huge. Like it's a billion euro dollar industry, so clearly we're using it. Are we using it right?
Exactly.
That's the question. I mean, there are some procedures and treatments I don't agree with.
Same here.
And I think it's important that people recognize that everything can't be fixed from the outside. So, I mean, you can create a beautiful doll, but it's really on the inside that it counts, because that's where the essential feel good is going to come from. And I think sometimes the beauty industry puts such a wealth of importance on youth and beauty. And then, the older you get, then that all of a sudden you're looking at ads of people who are twice your age, and, oh, does that mean that I don't fit into the beauty segment anymore? So it's important for us to recognize that just because the industry or the magazines or social media put it out in that way, that it's not really true.
It's shifting a little bit, but still it's sometimes false picture that we need to recognize and to be kind of careful. Right?
Exactly. And fair play to the brands who are actually recognizing that and do something about it, like the likes of Dove, for example, the bigger brands who have that impact, who can impact millions of people. But I do think that it's an important industry for a couple of reasons for us. I know my confidence is better when I look better. I don't do a massive amount in terms of beauty care, etc., but I do enough for me to feel confident walking out the door and not make a show of myself, for example. Because unfortunately, as much as we'd like to say or pretend that everybody looks at the inner beauty, people also judge you from what they see on the outside. So it's about finding that balance on that. The other thing I think is that when you look after yourself and when there's that sense of self-care, you're looking after yourself. That feeds into your own confidence, and you're saying to yourself, I am good enough, I'm worth looking after. And then that kind of feeds into how you project yourself on the outside. And if you've got your nice nails or your nice makeup that shows that, or your nice hair that shows that as well, showing up in that way, then it's good. You know, and I can't pretend that I don't think that it feeds in some way in terms of how you come across, how you present to the world, how people are willing to listen to you. Like I know if I arrived in the way I looked at like 6:30 this morning, I don't think many people would watch or look.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, might be more in a kind of a wondering way, like, wow. So I think it is important. It's up to us whether we use it right or not. And about just having that happy balance and knowing that as much as you can do on the outside, it's essentially the inside that matters too. But I have to say, I also enjoy that when I do go out to get, you know, whether it's a massage, whether it's my nails, whether it's my hair or something like that, the chats I have with the person that's doing that, there's a real connection because you're in that zone of self-care, looking after yourself and talking about it. And it feels good. There's a definite connection there. So I think it's important.
Fantastic. So like the places like beauty or wellness services, you mean that you go there and that should be a place where you can relax or and have a chat and a little bit.
Exactly. Where no one's going to come running in the door saying, have you seen my GAA boots or have you seen my device or whatever it is, you know, that it's 100% safe space, your space. And you can have that calm chat while doing something that's actually all for you and not just half for you or a quarter for you or not for you at all. It's actually something that you've come to show up for your own self-care. And that's very important.
That's fantastic. Yeah, self-care is really important. But I'm glad you say this because sometimes we want to rush into something like, I have to quickly get my hair or nails or something and still on the phone. Then that person that is doing the service is like, shut off. It's like behind, I don't know, a wall or just doing these things. And then I'm like, still my mind is somewhere in work or at home or whatever other problems. So you say that should be all more kind of relaxing self-care time. And that's how we should treat the beauty, that this is my time. I will get out from this salon, I'll have my hair, my nails or something else done, but I appreciate this time and I'm taking as much as possible from it because it's me time. That should be also in the business plans, shouldn't it? Or a daily routine.
It's true. And actually from a service provider point of view, there's a couple of things there. When you create a more mindful experience, people feel a lot better when they come out. And you know, it is true what they say. It's not about what you won't remember what people say, you remember how they made you feel.
Absolutely.
So when you come out and that feeling of having your nails done and feeling more confident and more positive, and when it comes to you as a businesswoman, then asking for a review, asking for your 5 stars on Google, it's much easier to give it. And it's also, I would see it as an opportunity for you to connect on a deeper level with your clients, that they keep coming back and back. Because again, to be honest, if you are kind of behind a wall, not really making conversation, I mean, by all means, some people would prefer not to make conversation, but if once you contract for that in the beginning, that's perfectly fine. And once everyone understands where they are, but for the most part, I think people are happy enough to have that conversation and connect on a human level. Because as you say, life is so busy, you don't often get that chance. So it's nice to just let the guard down for a minute and have a chat.
And in Ireland, we like to chat.
Yes, exactly. And that's an important part of it as well. It's an important part of our society and connection. And even though I didn't watch it, I think there was a documentary on recently about Netflix. There was somebody I met who was raving about this. It was about the blue zones. And
oh, yes. I actually watched some of the episodes. Not all of them, but they really, really good. That's true.
Yeah, so apparently it's all about community and connecting with people. Yes. So the beauty and wellness industry has a job to do there as well.
there is something for improvement.
I'd
like to see that actually. So you think that self-care and self-confidence play a big role in the success of women in business, including those in the manicure and beauty as well. So when we actually provide a service, then we should also go and enjoy this type of services as well ourselves.
Absolutely, because you do get to that sense where you learn from how other people do things, how you feel when that's happening. And when you become a little bit more relaxed and mindful, you come up with ideas of, oh, I like the way they did that, or maybe I could do this or whatever. So that's one point for sure from a business perspective. But I also think that when you aren't looking after yourself, because you're in such close proximity with your clients, unfortunately, if there are issues around self-confidence, they will see that chink in the armor. And when women will feel more confident themselves when they are around confident women. So they notice it.
Empowered women empower women.
Exactly. So it's so much more than just sitting down and doing people's nails. There's a lot more that goes into that whole interaction. And that's how you create clients for life, essentially. It's by building that connection and help people go out and feel good. And because I'm so much around making a difference and having extra values that go into that, if it is something that you value as well, that it's important for you to show up for that value too.
Absolutely. So it's not just stupid nails. There's so many, because some people say stupid nails, but there's much more. There's the small talk, there's the atmosphere, there's so much more.
Yeah.
So maybe we should charge more a lot of it.
well, that's what I was kind of saying at the start, is that if you create an experience that people really value, and people feel good coming away from there, then it is so much better. And certainly I've gone through a lot of various service providers, and a lot of the time it's because I just, I might have left because I didn't really feel valued anymore. And I've gone on to different people, or, sometimes it's just maybe one bad experience, or I felt awkward or something like that, or an indifference. If I feel that people are indifferent to whether I show up or not to them, then why should I give the business to them? I much prefer to give it to somebody who really wants my business.
And we'll go to different places to try around and see where you feel the best, not where you get the best. Well, there is an importance of the service itself to be as good or as best as possible, but then the feeling also, it could be 5-star spa or something, and then you feel not neglected and not really looked after, and you'll never go back to there, or even though it's the best.
Exactly. And there is that sense as well, when you go to somewhere that's really big and has a lot of money behind it, they don't really need your custom. And if there's anything about that experience that isn't great, then it's quite easy to walk away and go somewhere where they really would value your custom.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are some common misconceptions or challenges that women in business might face, and how to overcome them? You're a coach, so tell us a little bit about this.
Let me see. Gosh, I mean, the biggest one is, no doubt, it's self-confidence. Misconceptions: they're no good at business. That would be a big one. There are plenty of courses out there where you can go and learn the skills, but automatically I think people can often feel overwhelmed by everything that's involved and decide they're no good at any of it. But in actual fact, we all have strengths that we're naturally good at. So there are plenty of courses out there that can help you to build those skills. So that would be the first thing. The second thing then is just around, I'm not good enough, or I can never build a successful business. I've always only worked for other people. People won't buy from me. All these beliefs that come in, that people just use it almost to hammer themselves into the ground before they even start. So the first thing I would share on that is that nobody does what you do in the way that you do it. So yes,
they're unique. Everybody's
exactly.
There's only one example.
Exactly, and there's a level of energy between people. So even though 19 other people may do nails just as good as you do, but they don't have the same energy as you do, or they don't have the same experience, we tend to buy from people who are like ourselves. So when people connect with that, then it creates that sort of rapport and that bond. So just understanding that there is, it's a bit like love. There is somebody out there for you that you can connect with, that will be happy to buy from you. But people often, I suppose, in terms of marketing, they hate going out there and saying that they're good at what they do, and they feel like they're bragging or boasting. Like, I've been in conversations with women that it's only halfway through the conversation I learned that they've got like multiple awards or multiple degrees or whatever. And I'm like, how am I only finding out about this now? So women kind of tend to confuse confidence with arrogance. They think if they're too confident, it will come out across as arrogance. But what I would always come back to is that marketing is communication, and people don't know what you don't tell them. So it is important to be clear. There's another, actually, Brené Brown has a very good quote: clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So be clear about who you are, what you do, what you offer. the values and the energy that go into that as well, because people connect with your values and your energy and put it out there. And honestly, if I have to be really straight talking, get over yourself, because that we are our own worst enemies at times. Yeah, we are our own.
Get out there and
exactly. And it's only by getting up and getting out there that you will know and you will learn, because we learn from our mistakes, we learn from our successes. Not everything is going to work, but you can always learn, tweak, do something a little bit differently to get to the point where you found that sweet spot. Yes, this is how it needs to be done. This is how it needs to work. It's like everything. Like, what did you, when you tried to learn a bike, to ride a bike, were you successful the first time around?
And we didn't read the instruction. We just tried and tried and tried until we actually were able to do it.
Exactly.
There was a little bit cheer from family or somebody else, or just you were on your own, but still you were doing it rather than, should I go there? Should I try? How will I, if I press this paddle, or if I do this, what will happen? We just did it.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, you mentioned a really good point there around, family and friends that would be cheering you on. So that's a huge piece of advice I'd share with people. Make sure to create your little network, your inner circle of people who you trust, who are also in business. And it doesn't matter if they run a completely type of business. It's just someone that you can have a chat to and understand that, you're not on your own, that other people have these challenges too. And it's good to just have those conversations and let it out and share advice.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So sometimes we don't have somebody around us. And can we coach ourselves, or do we really need others? And what are some resources or networks, or there's something you would recommend?
Yeah, so
to start from.
The first thing I would say is that absolutely you can coach yourself. And also, not least, there's so much on YouTube, on Instagram, on social media, on the internet that you can get to help you. Go down to your local library. There are loads of resources there as well, to help you to understand how to coach yourself. But essentially, coaching is asking yourself questions. I mean, that is what I do as a job. I ask people questions. And the best description I've seen of coaching is that a mentor has answers for your questions, whereas a coach has questions for your answers. And so you're challenging yourself. When you coach yourself, you're challenging yourself. Now, obviously, it can be very difficult if you're sitting there in front of the mirror asking yourself questions. So my advice would be to journal, to actually take out a notebook and write down the question.
Old way of understanding yourself and putting your thoughts on it.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly. And let it flow and continue asking the questions, so how am I feeling today? What's driving this feeling? How is this impacting my business? What else can I do? What can I do to get myself out of this funk, for example, if you're not having a great day? And so that would be the first thing. I do think still that other people are important, because they, I suppose you see things and you're inspired by things, or things will make you set off thinking in a certain way. For example, having a coach is good as well, because when you have someone who can see what lights you up, maybe what makes your shoulders slump, then it makes you think about, they may ask you a question you would never have thought to ask yourself. So while you can absolutely coach yourself, I would still say come out and meet other people as well.
There are some networking events as well.
So as you know, as we met in Single Enterprising Women Network. So
online.
Exactly, online. There are plenty of others online as well, particularly in your industry too, which is a good way to meet people because you have things in common. But don't confine yourself to business networking events. If you go off and do a training course, like for example, here locally and all around Ireland, you have the local enterprise offices, they run training courses all the time. Other people run training courses as well, business people who are in the business of training. Every single person who's on that course is a potential connection for you. Be smart, chat to people, see who do you connect with versus who you're just not connecting in that energy space. And afterwards follow up and send them an email, follow each other on social media, invite them out for a coffee. Set aside a little bit of time. I know it can be frustrating when you're working hard. You're like, oh well, that's time I could spend with clients, but it's part of self-care as well to pull out and meet other people, because there are very few conversations that you will walk away with or walk away from and not learn something or not have an awareness around something. And I would even say in the worst possible situations where you meet someone that you really don't connect with or get on with, question yourself, what is it about that person that's really getting on my
Annoying,
goat?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it might teach you something about yourself. And also even in terms of the type of people you don't want to connect with. And then you know who to stay away from.
Yeah. Just like, okay, so that conversation is finished. See you again next time somewhere else. Okay, move on. Let's find someone else.
Exactly. But a lot of people get frightened by networking, and they feel that they have to do it at networking events. And then if they don't go to those events, then they're not networking. But actually, it could be at the school gate. It could be at the local sports club.
There's a women's shed. There's a men's shed.
Yeah.
That's also more casual. It's not business. It's just, but still connecting with others. And if somebody's being lonely or have nothing else to do, that's something they could attend as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And it is a way you find the best of people in the most unlikely of places.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and you're feeding that need for yourself to be connected, particularly if you're working from home and if you're on your own in the business.
Very good. Could you share some success stories with our audience?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot, actually.
Okay.
And I suppose I want to say, before I start rhyming off names or businesses, that actually the people that I really admire are people who manage to have a good work-life balance, are still able to treat people with respect and show up with a kindness and a warmth that creates a good environment around them. And I think that's, you know, when you come to the end, really, and you look back on your life, it's not necessarily going to be all that's in the bank. It's going to be how people felt about you, how you treated people. I think that's essentially what we're here on this earth for. So the people that I see who are, you know, successful from the perception that we have, I always look behind that to see that as well. I have met some business women who have seemed really, really nice. I remember one woman in particular, and seemed really, really nice and was really open to what I was asking her to do. And she was very, very nice to me. But she had asked one of her staff to go and get a couple of coffees for us. And the staff member came in and she said, "Oh, there's your latte." And the woman said, "Oh, I asked for a cappuccino." And the girl nearly was shaking, you know, out of pure fear. And the woman was like, no, it's fine, don't worry. So on the surface, it all seemed fine. But I often wondered afterwards, what kind of culture is it that would make somebody feel so frightened and insecure about,
oh my God, I mixed up with coffees, will I get fired?
Yeah, exactly. So even though on the outside that may have seemed like a very successful businesswoman to the world, when I saw that, it put a question mark in my head, and it's made me question what I really consider success to be. I've been lucky enough through my work to meet a lot of high profile people. So, you know, Catherine Thomas, Grania Shoiga, Lorraine Keane. And I have to say, the kindness that they showed up with in every interaction I had with them, the warmth, the humor, that's what I remember about them. And I would champion them till the end.
The experience.
Exactly.
That's what would they get a 5 stars review from me.
Exactly. And you know, the reality is they're well-known big names, and they're paid to do a job. So they could just as easily kind of, okay, great, Sharon, lovely to meet you. Okay, let's do this. That's it. But no, it wasn't like that. Like, I remember having really lovely, meaningful conversations with them that I still remember now. So it is back to that sense of, it's not what people say, it's how you make them feel. And there's a guy called Declan Coyle. He has a book called The Green Platform. I'd encourage people to follow him on social media. Really lovely guy. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him a few times. And he would often say that kindness is your currency. And I truly believe that, because when you are genuinely a kind person who, regardless of how or how much someone is paying you to do something, that warmth and that kindness comes across and you'll never forget it. And that's what carries
the value.
Around. That's the value. That's the value. So in terms of successful people, they're the people who show up with genuine kindness and warmth, and look at the human behind the business and connect with them, and you know, show up for their family, that work-life balance. They're the ones I truly admire.
That's so interesting. So everything now, it's into not only business, but it's also the kindness. So that is rapid change. I've been in business, doing business around 20 years. So let's say maybe a little bit less, but still I see it was completely different back then. It was like you had to be so strict and sharp and not really nice. And now it's a little bit different, and more women is in business as well, and maybe that's why everything changes.
Well, that's true, because there's a level of energy that comes in here, that caring energy, that feeling of connection, etc., which women are generally very good at. So that could well be the reason why.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was so interesting. If you have any more questions, I will put a link down below and in the video, so people can connect with Sharon and ask for more. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joanna. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video. Have a nice day. Bye.